What's up, man?
It is
all the way home.
It is. It is February.
Yes.
So, yeah, we're all all the way home in February. February.
Yes.
We're trying to make
February.
We're trying to make this word association stick.
Sure. Why not?
We're gonna rename this the Rorschach Hoopercast, and it's just gonna be, what does this gibberish make you think of?
It is whatever you want it to be. Yeah. Yep.
I love there's one of my favorite. I don't say this very often, but I do say it more recently. One of my favorite memes is there's a picture of a Rorschach test, and it's like, I don't know who keeps sharing this, but why does it look like my parents fighting?
Yes.
Anyway, all right. Well, hey, speaking of parents fighting. No. All right, fuck it. All right, let's talk about Oppenheimer.
We're in a race against the Nazis. And I know what it means if the Nazis have a bomb.
We have a 12-month head start.
18.
How could you possibly know that?
We've got one hope. All America's industrial might and scientific innovation connected here. A secret laboratory. Keep everyone there until it's done.
Let's go recruit some scientists.
Build a town, build it fast. If we don't let scientists bring their families, we'll never get the best.
Why would we go to the middle of nowhere for who knows how long?
Why? Why? How about because this is the most important thing to ever happen in the history of the world?
You're the great improviser, but this you can't do in your head.
Are we saying there's a chance that when we push that button, we destroy the world?
Chances are near zero.
Near zero.
What do you want from theory alone?
0 would be nice.
This is a matter of life and death. But I can perform this miracle.
World War II would be over. Our boys would come home.
That's happening, isn't it?
The world will remember this day. Our work here will ensure a peace mankind has never seen. Until somebody builds a bigger one.
You are the man who gave them the power to destroy themselves. And the world is not prepared.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Truman needs to know what's next.
2.
What's next?
1.
So, in a strange twist of fate, you have not seen this yet.
I've not.
And I have, because I utilized a library, and that's how I
There you go.
found this film.
Sure.
So this is the Oppenheimer, the Golden Globe winning film.
Mm-hmm.
The Oscars happen by the time this comes out. Who knows? This film was award worthy. Some people thought so. So Oppenheimer was written and directed by Christopher Nolan, and based on the book American Prometheus by Kai Bird and Martin Sherwin. And it's got a pretty great cast. We've got Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr., Florence Pugh, Josh Hartnett, Casey Affleck, Rami Malek, Kenneth Branagh. So let's see. What was the last Nolan film I saw new? I have not seen Dunkirk. I have not seen Tenet.
Okay.
What would have been before that? Jeez.
For Dunkirk?
Yeah. Shoot.
Was it just Interstellar? Am I missing
I'm
one?
drawing a blank. Hold on.
There's got to be one in between Interstellar and Dunkirk, right?
Let me look here real quick. We've got No, there's not.
Wow. Okay.
So the last one I would have seen in theaters would have been The Dark Knight Rises.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so I didn't see Interstellar in theaters. I saw it later. And I like Interstellar a lot. I never saw Dunkirk. I remember people generally saying Dunkirk was good, but it was just different. It was like, now we're going into like a weird, I can't remember that film. Correct me if I'm wrong. That film was experimental somehow. Wasn't it like narratively experimental? Wasn't it like, it didn't really have a central character?
So I only saw it the once. If I remember right, it's fairly dialogue free. Like it's pretty much just action. But the thing that I remember most about it is, and I think it's supposed to be this way, like I think it's by design, but the main, like your protagonist and central characters, you kind of don't get to know them. And I think that's by design because it's sort of the idea of like, you run up on an ally in the war and you're not going to stop and take time to get to know them.
Right.
You just go into battle. And like, so I've heard that. I don't know if that's true, if that's the way that it was, but for me, I felt like character wise, it was really weak.
Yeah. I remember because Interstellar had everything. It had character, it had drama, it had effects, it had theme, it had all that stuff. And so then Dunkirk came along and was like, well, this looks pretty. And the production design's great. But what's with this story? And so for that reason, I never saw it because I was like, oh, okay, well, I really need that in a movie. And I just wasn't in a position or a rush to see Dunkirk. And then when Tenet came out, I didn't hear one person say they liked it. Most people said they were either meh on it or did not like it. And one reason being the sound mix, and which we talked about when you reviewed it. And I've said before, like, I don't agree with the creative choice of muddying dialogue just because that's more lifelike. Like this is a film. Please mix your sound evenly with everything else so we can hear what people are saying.
Yeah. Yep.
So Oppenheimer does do that. I don't know to the degree to which Tenet does it, but I did know that about Oppenheimer going in. I also knew I'd be watching it with subtitles. I don't feel it's weird. Simultaneously, we're like, Americans don't want to read subtitles, and then we're like, hey, let's all read subtitles though, so that audio doesn't matter as much.
Right.
So, but I shouldn't have to listen to subtitles. Shouldn't have to read subtitles. You're supposed to listen to them, right? Is that why? Maybe that's my issue. I'm trying to listen to them.
Yeah, I think it's not working. Yeah.
I close my eyes and I can't hear the subtitles.
These subtitles don't make any noise.
I don't mind subtitles in a film, but I really like to look at the frame and look at performances and look at other stuff, not read to make sure I'm following the story. So that's annoying. Whatever. That being said, I really liked Oppenheimer. Cool. It's long, and I definitely started nodding off during the third act, or the third hour, whatever you want to call it. It's a long movie, and I was tired, and so whatever. But then I ended up waking up really early the next morning for some reason. I think one of my kids woke me up, and it was too late to go back to sleep, and so I was like, "Oh, I got time," and so like I put it back in and ran it back, watched the ending again.
Yep.
Sorry, this is all a way of saying Oppenheimer. So this is about J. Robert Oppenheimer, who I guarantee you most people have now heard of just by this film existing. The father of the atomic bomb, the theoretical physicist who he's the reason that we have the atomic bomb. He's not the only reason. He was the director of the Institute for Advanced Study at Princeton, and then was the chair of the General Advisory Committee for the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission. And all those tests that they did out in New Mexico and Los Alamos, that was all under his direction. And famously, I don't want to say regretted having a hand in that, but certainly was horrified at what the bomb became and how it was used and whatnot. So it is ripe subject matter for just discussion, but also for a film to have a character who's brilliant, moral, to an extent. I mean, he cheats on his wife, but like, who?
Well, there's that. Yeah, if you take away the terrible things, he's pretty cool.
He's moral minus the immoral things.
Yes.
But well, he's like the quintessential scientist, which is like, we want to learn things, but it matters how we use these things. Mm. He did have a conscience, and to be fair to him, and he even makes this argument in the movie, like, it's not like without J. Robert Oppenheimer, we wouldn't have dropped a bomb on 2 bombs on Japan. The Nazis were developing bombs, Soviets, like everyone was developing nuclear technology. It's not like we had the only scientists. Like everyone has scientists, and they're all generally in the same. After the 1900s, after the Spanish flu, when science got good, there was no more like bullshit science. And well, there is, but in developed countries, superpowers, we're all. It's not like we're going like, hey, let's just not make the bomb, and then there won't be a nuclear war. We have to make a bomb because everyone else is going to make a bomb. People are going to figure this out. Mm-hmm. So I feel for the guy, because in one way it's like, yeah, I mean, without you, it wouldn't have happened, but without you, it would have happened. And maybe it wouldn't have happened first, and maybe we would have gotten bombed instead. So it's one of those, like one of his colleagues says like, no, like it's, here's all the information, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, okay, cool. So when do you want to start? And he's like, oh, I'm not going to be a part of this. I don't want to see 300 years of scientific progress be used to make a weapon. And that's like, that guy's right, but it's too late, man. It is being made into a weapon. Yeah. So I'm sorry, but we're here. Yeah. That's over. We can't change that. What do we want to do now? So anyway, that's the interesting, I've always enjoyed that interesting kind of moral conundrum with the bomb. So I recommend people see this now that it's available for, purchase or rent. I got this at the library. Like I said, I don't think it's on streaming anywhere and won't be anytime soon. Oh man, what did I like most about this? So I think the cast is so good. Cillian Murphy is great. Robert Downey Jr. is great. Emily Blunt is great. Florence Pugh is great. Everyone is great. Rami Malek is great. Kenneth Branagh's in like 2 scenes, and it's like, that's great. He's great. Everyone's just really, really good. And I watched the special features because I had the Blu-ray and I had time. And all of these actors are just like, it's just really nice. Like all these actors are clamoring to work with Nolan and will take whatever part he wants to cast them in. And someone said like, it's really humbling to like be like 7th on the call sheet, when you've led a film before, when you've been the lead, there's almost a pressure it takes off you, but then there's a pressure it puts on you because you want to make your small role matter, and it's like that's the kind of stuff that's, that really elevates a film, is just, especially with this many faces and we're going black and white, and it's like, oh, there's Matt Damon. He's the general guy. So it does kind of matter to cast stars in a way. Plus it's an R-rated film about the atomic bomb. If you cast a bunch of theater actors, we may not care. The general audience may not come see it. Cillian Murphy is amazing. I hope he wins every award he's up for. He's always been good, but
I was just say it's about time that people realize how good he is.
But this is perfect. It's a perfect role for him. He's great. And people have been saying how good Robert Downey Jr. is in this. He is terrific. He's so good. It's subtle. There's a voice, there's just mannerisms that are, you look at an actor and you see the actor to an extent, but he's not playing himself. He's not playing Tony Stark. Yes, it's Robert Downey Jr. and yes, that's his face, but he's putting on a voice. He's changing his posture. The way he moves is different. It's very subtle. It's really good. And sweet. And just not to knock Robert Downey Jr. because I love the guy and I enjoy everything he does. But if a fair criticism of Robert Downey Jr. in the last 10 years would have been that he's sort of coasting a little bit. Famously used an earpiece for some of the latter Marvel films instead of like learning lines and stuff. And so I remember particularly thinking like, man, this is a guy who used to like memorize his lines, but like via acronym, and he had all this like crazy methods to to memorize a script, especially for like Zodiac, a script like you're working with Fincher. And so it was nice as a Robert Downey Jr. fan to see him in this role and sort of be like, see him in a role that seems to have taken him some effort.
Yeah.
Which is really good. And I think he may feel that way as well. You know, it's nice to try again. I mean, this movie is important. It's I always like when auteur directors like Chris Nolan, who've only made a dozen or less films. It's important to me as someone who generally likes them for their films to not get worse as the years go on. And so for a couple of years, it's been like, oh man, our Nolan's good films like are the ones that are broadly appealing and or appealing to me have those gone.
Sure.
And it's really cool that his latest one is like a really good one. You know, like I said,
he needed a win.
He did. And it is long. It's long. It might be too long, but then again, it's not slow. It's not slow. So maybe it's fine that it's long, you know?
Sure. Well, there's nothing wrong with length as long as it's engaging throughout.
And it is.
So, I mean, that's good.
It's one of those movies too, where like, I know that it would reward a rewatch just because it's one of those movies that goes like, hey, listen, like we're not going to, at 3 hours, we have to either move a little too fast for you or we're going to go too slow for you and you're going to be bored. So it's probably better that we lean towards fast and have you going like, wait, what? You know, hold on. Who's that guy? You know, than just going like, Jesus Christ. Like it's been only been 40 minutes. Something. Please do something.
You're like poking the movie with a stick.
Yeah.
Come on.
Bomb the Japanese.
Be interesting.
I know that the author like consulted on the film, like was on set and they were talking to that guy. Well, one of them, I think Kai Burt, I can't remember which one. Anyway, the thing that my criticism of the movie, the thing that bothered me, I definitely didn't like, there were some of the editing choices where like just weird cuts, just kind of times where I'm just like, why would you cut away from that and to this? And just stuff that I would have done differently. And any jackass with a microphone can say that, but I was just watching. I was like, oh, no. It just didn't feel right. Some dialogue scenes. But I did not like the aspect ratio changing during the film. And this happens a lot. There's IMAX shots. There's regular, 16:9, whatever shots, black and white, color. And and it's not like, it wasn't all, there was black and white on IMAX. That's actually really cool how they did that. They basically had to get Kodak to make black and white IMAX film because it didn't exist. And so, they weren't sure if it was going to work. And the film looks amazing. The picture quality is crazy. I watched this on Blu-ray too. It is a gorgeous film. So
Hoyte van Hoytema.
Yeah, baby. That is some good looking cinematography. But like I said, the problem is like there are times, like sometimes when you have IMAX films in IMAX, right? Like Transformers or even, The Dark Knight Rises, you've got sequences that are in IMAX and sequences that are not. But what does not happen during those sequences is the format changing. They're running, and then like, boom, now we're in full frame. Optimus Prime is fighting someone in the forest. And then the scene goes on and then it happens and it ends. We go to the next scene and now we're back in letterboxes. And it's like, okay, cool. Like the IMAX scene is over. That is fine because at least every time the camera cuts, it's not wide, big,
something different. Yeah.
But we're going from IMAX and non-IMAX shots back to back and then jumping between them. And it's like, okay, no. No. That's so distracting. It's annoying. I can't get a sense of the scope and the frame because you keep changing it. I was not a fan of that. So that bothered me a lot. I gotta say.
Sure.
If I buy this film, I might like tape construction paper to my TV and just keep it in the letterbox.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's interesting because if you look it up on IMDb, the aspect ratio, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 aspect ratios listed. So it's crazy that there's that many. And of course it depends on what version you're seeing it. Like the 70 millimeter is different than the 35 millimeter. But yeah, it's just crazy that there's that many different aspect ratios. I was thinking, so recently I screened Everything Everywhere All at Once, and it does the same thing. It's aspect ratio changes. And I'm not a fan of that. So like, I agree. I feel like that would be distracting for me, just because I feel like you should just pick the aspect ratio that's going to work best for your film. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, don't be like, I want to do this scene and this and that scene and that, because 1, it makes it really hard for the projectionist, and 2, it makes it hard like for our televisions. So like 178.1 is what most of the film is in, and that's 16:9. But then, yeah, there are some sequences that are like that IMAX aspect ratio. It's 235:1, so it's a scope, so it'll be letterboxed on your screen. And then there evidently are also some scenes that are like 143:1, so we're getting close down to like 4:3. And I don't know, man, that it's just distracting to me. So I would agree.
It is distracting,
having not seen the film.
And I get it. Like we're gonna make some visual changes when the time period changes. But it's just like, no, just do that. But you're already doing that with the color. Like just do that with the color. Don't do that with the frame. If you want to shoot if you want to shoot the everything with Robert Downey Jr.'s character in black and white and whatever, it's like that's all fine. But please just keep the aspect ratio consistent, or at least don't change it within the scene.
Sure.
I don't know.
I feel like now's a good time to talk about. I don't have a lot to say, but like Christopher Nolan as an auteur, having as much control as he does, and seemingly nobody to rein him in. How much of this is a good thing, and how much of this is excessive? Or it's just like, I will because I can. And I think that that's what some of his films started to suffer from around the time of The Dark Knight Rises, where it's like, look, I have all this clout. I can do anything I want. And there started to be this shift with him. And it's one of the reasons why like The Dark Knight Rises didn't connect as heavily, I think, with most people, certainly with me. And then the Interstellar was fine, but for me, I just didn't connect with it as much. And I think it's because of that same mentality of like, I can do anything, so I'm just going to do anything that I want. And so do you feel like Oppenheimer is a more reined in version of a Nolan thing, or do you think it's still experimental? It's still him flexing his, because I can status.
I think it's more reined in. I mean, granted, I didn't see Dunkirk or Tenet. But I feel like like I said, like a couple of, like there were some technical choices in Oppenheimer that I'm like not on board with. But I felt like every creative choice, every narrative choice, we jump around in time, but that works to the advantage because, a lot of the beats of the story are being framed by this confirmation hearing for Robert Downey Jr.'s character. So people will say things like, and was it then that you knew that you were going to do this or whatever? And then we jump to what that is. And so it's actually pretty narratively, good.
Sure.
So I feel like that helps. And I don't feel like there's, the explosion, the Trinity test is really cool. They do some really cool things with, I've read both that there's minimal CGI and then I've read that there's no CGI in this film. But I don't think there's any, because, and there's some cool looking stuff that they did with like micro photography that you would think was CG. There's some stuff in camera that you're like, oh, that's gotta be a composite shot. It's not. There's some fun stuff they do with like the background shaking when Oppenheimer's like, giving this speech after they bombed Japan. And he's like trying to pretend like he's rallying the crowd, but he's like cracking inside. And they took a photo of the wall behind him, projected it behind him, and then wiggled like the projector so that the wall would like would like kind of shake and
bounce,
try to stabilize itself behind him. And I saw like a behind the scenes like video of it. And I was like, shit, I thought that was no. So in a really gratifying way, like a lot of Nolan's films, not all of them obviously, but this is one of those films that movie lovers, I think, really can sink their teeth into because not just of what it is as a finished product, but how it was made. You know, from him jumping to another studio to make it, and just the spirit in which it was made. Like, yeah, I don't like the changing aspect ratio. I wish the sound was mixed a little bit better. Some of the editing was weird, but for the most part, I'm like, no, this is a pretty successful film all around for me, at least. It's not perfect, but you know, for music and performances and cinematography, and narrative, I was pretty happy with it. Ludwig Göransson does the score. It's really good. I think someone said he doesn't use he doesn't use drums at all, which, okay, but it's just like, it's probably harder than it sounds.
Sure.
Yeah. But the score is really good.
Sure.
Yeah. Like I'll probably end up with this one just because I wish that I had, wished I had bought it. Cause I wish I had more time with it. Cause I'd watch it again. I liked Oppenheimer a lot.
Cool. Okay.
And of course it made a lot of money, which is important.
Sure.
Almost $1 billion, almost 10 times its budget.
Which is great for Hollywood because they need the shot in the arm of like, stop making garbage and stop making things that are based on things just because they're based on things.
Right. Yeah. I recommend Oppenheimer. I think people should see it. It's worth it. It's worth the hype.
I'll check it out.
So speaking of the atomic bomb,
it's a terrible segue, but okay, let's go.
Sure. Right.
There's no way to make this segue palatable.
Well, it isn't okay. Is this Godzilla -1?
This is Godzilla -1.
Godzilla -1.
And like I said, there's no way to make that segue palatable. It's going to be awkward, but yeah. So Godzilla -1. So I saw this a few weeks ago. Hooper, you have not seen this, correct?
No, I wanted to, but there's no way for me to. It doesn't look like.
Okay. So I would imagine this will pop up on streaming soonish. I mean, it's still making bukus of money, so they're going to hold it in theaters for as long as they can. But this is now the highest grossing Godzilla movie ever. And yeah, man, like it just kind of it blew up. And here's the thing. I didn't know about this movie when it was coming out because I Godzilla's fine. I don't follow Godzilla. So I didn't know this was happening. Like, I had no idea. I was just like, okay, of course there's another Godzilla movie. There's always more Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
But they so the bottom line is they made this film for under $15 million. It is a very small budgeted film. It looks fantastic for having that small of a budget. And it's, like I said, making a ton of money and, you know, doing what it does best, which is just like conquering the box office. So let's talk about like the plot. So the plot is actually focused on a character named Koichi, and Koichi is a kamikaze pilot in World War II, and he gets cold feet. And so the opening scene is him returning to what is essentially like an island where they service the jets. And he returns saying there's something wrong with his plane, but there's not. He's just a coward and couldn't go, you know, die for the cause. So while he's on this island, they're starting to kind of get wind that he might have been faking this plane issue. And he's trying to figure out what he's going to do when the small little island is under attack by Godzilla. And it's a young Godzilla. It's, you know, this, you know, I say small, but he's still a dinosaur. Like, he's big, Godzilla. And he lays waste to the island, and Koichi survives and makes his way back home. And when he gets home, it's right after the atomic bombs have dropped. So he finds that his family is dead. His parents are dead. And his entire village has been wiped off the face of the planet. And so he befriends a young girl who is caring for a child that she's kind of found. And so they form this weird, unlikely family. And wouldn't you know it, Godzilla comes back. And this time he's headed for the mainland. And this war-torn place that's in shambles is now being threatened again. And so it's that's the story. And you'll notice, like, I didn't say much about Godzilla. It's because Godzilla is the villain of the piece, and that's, in my opinion, when Godzilla works best.
Sure.
And over the years, Godzilla has become like a weird anti-hero where he shows up to fight bigger, badder monsters and save the day. And while I guess that has its place, I've never loved it. You know, like, for me, the original Godzilla was the best take on the character. He is, I think that original was in 1954 or 57, something like that it came out. And so it was, you know, on the heels of World War II. And it was Japan, you know, creating this fictitious monster that, you know, would stop at nothing. And it's, you know, all about the 54. So it's all about the post-traumatic stress of the war. Yeah. And Godzilla is this living being that represents the bloodshed and the carnage that fell on Japan at that time. And so that was Godzilla. He was just a villain. And then he became this weird anti-hero, and this kind of returns him to his roots. And I think they've done that a few times over the years, but this is the most recent version. And again, I think it works the best. And our main character, Koichi. So I've not seen even really a fraction of the Godzilla films. There's a million of them. But one thing you never really talk about are the characters, because the human characters are superfluous and they're stupid. And if you look at like Hollywood, whew, boy, do we have problems writing characters in these movies. And, you know, if you want to talk about Roland Emmerich's Godzilla, I don't even remember who the main character is in that. I guess Matthew Broderick, but I don't remember anything about him. And
it was the mayor who eats the marshmallows.
I don't even know what you're talking about, but I have seen that movie. In fact, I saw that movie on my birthday when it came out in the theaters.
I saw it in theaters as
that
well.
Was the worst birthday of my life. I'm just kidding. Yeah, it was big at the time. Like we were the right age for it. Yeah, and so Hollywood's more recent examples, starting in 2014, we have like Aaron Taylor Johnson trying to lead one. Then we have one that's led by Millie Bobby Brown. We've got one, I don't know, Godzilla versus Kong. I don't even remember who was in that. Like, I don't remember anything about that. I guess Godzilla and Kong were in it, but I don't remember anything else.
Wasn't it the one with Brie Larson and Sam Jackson and Adrian Brody or something?
No, that was Kong Skull
Island. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that was the Kong movie that they crossed over with, but the Godzilla films specifically, like they had, one of them had Vera Farmiga and one had Kyle Chandler, and like they try to give you good actors doing things, but I don't remember anything that they do ever, because they're stupid and they don't matter. And at a certain point, you just like your brain clicks off and you're just like, I just want to see monsters fight. And this film is the antithesis of that. It's made by a guy who very clearly wanted to buck that trend. And so the writer-director, Takashi Yamazaki, is, in my mind, pulled off a genius move, which was, let me make you care for characters. Let me write a story that's just a story. Like, you could take Godzilla out of it and replace it with a bomb, or you could replace it with, some sort of just instrument of destruction, and it would still play. Of course, it plays better because you're watching a giant monster and that's cool, but it would still play otherwise because the movie is about Koichi and his would-be family, and that's how it should be. So, yeah. I gave this 4 stars. I mean, it's a really good movie. Anybody who knows my rating system anyway knows that like 4 stars is a really good movie. Like, I would own a 4-star film. And so I thought it was a really, really good use of my time, which is valuable. And it's great, man. Like, it's a genuinely great movie. Like I said, it's well made. It's so it's well performed. It's well written. It like I said, the cinematography is fantastic, and the visual effects for a $15 million movie, an under $15 million movie, they're unbelievable.
He did the effects for these.
Yes, correct. And it was all in house. So it was like him and some other people, close people.
It was all in his house.
All in his house. It wouldn't surprise me at this point. It's mind-blowing to me because, let me just do this for comparison. If I pull up Godzilla King of the Monsters, that was the most recent like just Godzilla movie that was created by Hollywood. So it cost $170 million to make. They're saying anywhere between 170 to 200 million plus 100 to 150 on marketing. So all in, you're looking at, on the conservative side, $300 million for Godzilla King of the Monsters. And this is sub 15. That's insanity. And it just goes to show the surplus that there is in Hollywood, and the way that we're making movies right now is just so inefficient cost-wise. No wonder everything has to be a hit, and they only want to make what is going to make $1 billion because they're spending their money inefficiently. There's no reason that Japan can create this on a $15 million budget and we can't. So I don't understand. Like, shoot, man, like give them a $50 million budget. That's way better. It's crazy to me that we're spending what we're spending. So I hope this is a wake up call to Hollywood in terms of finances. The IP is not ruling this story. The story is ruled by characters and characters doing real things. So the idea that Koichi is a deserter and is, obviously looked down upon in his culture for that. And he has to somehow try to find courage again, and redeem himself in that way is an incredibly human story. It's a guy who did something he's ashamed of, and how do I come back from that? And then his family, he's so ashamed he can't even muster the words to tell this girl who he lives with that, like, over the course of this film, that I love you. It's such a hard thing for him to do because he hates himself so much. And like the idea, the ideas behind the film are very deep, and they're personal, and they're real, and that just so happens to have a giant lizard. And like, that's not like tonally weird. It's a good movie. It has shades of Jaws in it because a good portion of it, takes place in the water and on this rickety old boat. And Koichi makes a group of friends on this boat that, are colorful, seafaring people. And like, I'm the doctor and I'm the captain, and, all these things. And like, it's just like classic Hollywood. It feels like Jaws. It feels like you're actually watching cinema. And that to me is very impressive. So I give it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I think that if you have the opportunity to see this in theaters, it is worth seeing in theaters. Word to the wise, it is in Japanese, so you will be reading the subtitles. If that bothers you, sorry. And also, like, if you're like me and you're really, really tired, I could see how you would say, I'm not going to go to a theater and read because I will fall asleep. I think the movie does a really good job of keeping your interest, so don't worry. But yeah, man, it's a really good movie. I do recommend it. If you can't see it in theaters, check it out when it comes out. I'm sure it'll be on streaming somewhere at some point. And I think you'll enjoy it. Like I said, it feels like a movie. And I'll say this, like, there are obviously blockbusters that I've enjoyed recently. Guardians 3, like, there are obviously blockbusters I've enjoyed, but this feels like the most classic example, like classic Hollywood example of a blockbuster. So if you're kind of yearning for the yesteryear kind of blockbuster, this is for you. This is made for you. So please check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. And I don't know where they go from here. Like, this making as much money, I'm sure they're talking to these people to do more. And yeah, I'm sure they will. So if the price is right. So yeah, man, Godzilla -1 is definitely worth your time. And I would check it out if you have the opportunity.
Godzilla -2 with the next one.
Godzilla -2. The next one's just Godzilla 0, and then Godzilla 1, and then Godzilla 2.
Like Coke Zero.
Maybe I'm stupid. I don't know why it's called -1. I have no, I'm not sure. I really don't know. So I may be an idiot, and probably everybody listening is like, it's called -1 because, and they're screaming at the screen right now. I don't know. I have no idea, but it's fine. Cool. Whatever. I assumed it was called -1 because maybe it's a prequel, but I don't know. There's no indication of that. So I don't know what this is, but yeah, man, I enjoyed it.
So that next one by Legendary Pictures in this Monsterverse series is actually coming out in March.
Good Lord. Okay.
Like very soon, like in a few weeks.
Yeah, they're pumping these things out.
Yeah, so it's like a lot of Rebecca Hall is back and Tyree Henry is back. And we've got
Rebecca Hall. That's right. She was in the last one.
Right. We got the same director coming back. So this one's called Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire. And they're fighting a bunch of other undiscovered threats hidden in our world, the Titans. It's like, okay.
I saw in that trailer that Kong has like a giant mechanical arm. Like,
does he?
weapon that he's wearing. And I'm like, first of all, someone somewhere footed the bill for a giant monkey gauntlet.
Which country had to manufacture this much steel?
Correct. And then they had to put it on him.
Monkey gauntlet.
How do you put a gauntlet on King Kong? I don't understand. Like, I guess he's a gentle giant, but what do? You just say like, "Hey, monkey, come here. I've got a banana.
Hold still.
Here's a giant banana. Just eat this while I put this on your arm."
Giant banana. It's like in the '98 film where they just had those gigantic piles of fish for Godzilla to eat. They just
for Godzilla, yeah,
brought it in with like a dump truck.
Yes. Yep. I thought it was so strategic that they released that trailer as soon as Godzilla -1 started making a lot of money. Then WB was like, and we have one too. We have a Godzilla 2. And I guess there are some people who are legitimate fans for the MonsterVerse, and they're like, "Ooh, this looks cool. Godzilla's pink now." and everyone else is just like, "Wow, you got a case in point of missing the mark."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeesh.
Can't wait to show you what we got.
Japan's over here making cinema and going like, here's a character going through real human things and Godzilla's a menace. And we're over here going, Godzilla's running with monkey and they're fighting things.
What if it's a buddy cop film and they're fighting worse monsters?
Yes. I saw something. It was like, I guess it was a meme, or I don't know if it's a meme, but whatever. The point is, it was this image and it was like, here's what we're in for. And it showed, evidently there's toys out now for Godzilla X Kong, and all the monsters have like tech on them. And so the question is like, is this for the toys, or in the movie are they going to get tech? And so like, I don't think it's going to stop at the monkey gauntlet. I think we're going to have like full blown Godzilla armor and jetpack and whatever. And I'm like,
rollerblades.
Do you realize how big this Godzilla is? Yeah. Yes. Do you realize how big this Godzilla is, dude? Even if you said like, all we're going to do is put like one finger armor on Godzilla, that's a huge piece of metal you've constructed here. Like, this is a huge man. A huge lizard man.
I want Godzilla to come up on like a skateboard the size of Texas, and then just like kickflip it into like this big man made of magma. And he just kickflips it and hits him in the face. And he just melts into a pile of lava. And then we fight the cyclone beast or whatever else killed Hercules.
I just want Godzilla to have like sunglasses. And he can put them on at some point.
Giant pair of sunglasses.
and they'll do the CSI thing. Yeah.
And Donkey Kong. King Kong's like, man, it's cool as shit. I wish I had sunglasses. I just have this stupid glove. This power glove.
The stupid gauntlet. Yeah.
Me wants sunglasses.
What if they start
now?
talking, dude? Like, at this point, I wouldn't put anything past Hollywood. Like, it'll be, it'll be Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart. Like, that's who it'll be. It's WB. It'll be the two of them. Brothers. It'll be Kevin Hart as Godzilla. That's exactly what it'll be.
There'll be like a joke about how Godzilla is so short, and he's like, I'm really not though.
Yeah.
We can't.
Yeah, right.
Can't say that anymore.
Cast like Austin Butler as King Kong, and you'll be like, why would you cast him? He doesn't even have a distinctive voice. This is just for the name.
I'm thinking like Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks as King Kong.
Yeah, just Mel. This is King Kong. We're going to cast an actor who is on the edge of death, who absolutely cannot continue to play this character in another film.
97-year-old Dick Van Dyke as King Kong.
If Carl Reiner was still alive, it'd be him and Mel Brooks as Godzilla and Kong.
Yes.
You picture those two in motion capture suits. Like, what are we doing here?
Yes.
Is this how we want to go out?
I don't know anybody personally who's like, Ooh, Godzilla X Kong. Yeah.
After a while, I feel like that kind of stuff, like really, I sound like an old fuck when I say this, but like, I'm pretty sure it just appeals to teenagers.
Sure. Who just go to the movies to go.
Right. It's a little complex for kids, and it's a little too dumb for like serious adults. But if you're like a teenager, you can follow action and understand story enough to where you're like, okay, I know what's going on. And then when they fight, you can actually appreciate it. Versus like my son has no idea how much work it takes to render Godzilla. So he has no like frame of reference for like how impressive the CGI is. And when that's like the big selling point.
Yeah.
But like a 16-year-old can go, oh shit, dude, that's pretty awesome. You know, that must have been hard.
Yeah. And they can talk about it Monday morning at school in homeroom.
In homeroom. Yeah. There's a water cooler factor still for like teens, you know, but for us, it's like, I don't care. I've got so much.
It's the homeroom factor.
The homeroom principle. Yeah.
The homeroom principle.
It was pioneered by J. Robert Homeroom.
This movie is just made for homeroom. Like that'll be the new thing. This is just a homeroom movie. That's all it is. Because let me tell you this, I'm certainly not going to go see Godzilla X Kong and then go to work the next day and go, hey guys, we got to talk about Godzilla X Kong.
Who else saw this?
Who else saw it? Because first of all, I'd be immediately fired, I think. And secondly, everybody else would be like, what are you talking about? Yeah. What is this? And I'd be like, it's a movie. And they'd be like, I've never heard of this movie in my life. And I'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right.
See, what ends up happening for me is like people will ask me like, have you seen this yet? And I'm like, no, I haven't seen it because for whatever reason. And then like 9 months later, not only have I seen that, but I've caught up on a bunch of other things. And then I asked people like 15 different things and they're like, I haven't seen any of that. I'm like, oh, well. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Right.
You saw the one thing, but I saw like a bunch of things later that you still haven't seen. What have you been up to?
Or what happens is like somebody tells you, hey, you need to go see this movie. You need to see this new Godzilla movie. And you go, okay, I'll get around to it. And then finally you get around to it and you go back to that person and say, hey, I saw the movie. And they go, oh yeah, cool. And then, but they don't remember much about it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, why did you recommend it to me?
Yeah. I just want to talk about it that day. And that's it.
Either that or you do what I do, which is you see the movie that was recommended to you, you don't like it very much, and you purposefully avoid the topic because you don't want to have the conversation where you're like, I didn't like the thing you recommended.
Yeah, you have terrible taste.
And now I either have to avoid you or lie to you and say, oh, it was good. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I had a good time watching it. It was great. And then they'll say, what's your favorite part? And you'll say, the part where the guy went to the place. That was a cool part.
Nobody asked me. I very rarely get asked to recommend movies anymore.
Really?
And I think I've put out this vibe that like I don't want to be asked. I really don't.
Yeah.
Like, I think that part of it is like I've expressly said like I hate that question because it's like, well, what's your genre? Like, what do you like? You know, like I can't just recommend a movie to you. But sometimes people just want to hear like confirmation bias. Like you want me to say, oh, Oppenheimer was good, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, but like I really love Zodiac. So you should watch that too, you know?
Right.
But like, I don't get asked anymore.
I still get asked. And some of the people that ask me are cinephiles that are like really highbrow with it. And so they'll be like, what have you seen recently? And you're like, oh, John Wick Chapter 4. And they're like, yeah, well, I saw a film from Thailand that was really good. And I'm like, oh, cool.
Cool. It sounds terrible.
They proceed to tell me about, whatever dumb movie it was. And it, it's all shot in one room and it's, really artistic and it's everyone's, really on meth for the entire film. It's method and cool. And it's like, okay, well, that's great.
Method.
Crystal method.
Crystal method acting. Stanislavski's crystal method.
Jodie Sweetin's method. That was a bad joke. You can cut that one out.
She's clean.
That's mean. It's mean. I don't even know if she did meth. She did something. Who knows? Whatever.
I think it was just alcohol.
No, it was more than alcohol. She was on hard drugs.
Right,
I don't remember what it was.
Let me find out.
It probably wasn't meth.
What drugs were Jodie Sweetin on? Let's see. Personal life.
The answer is just to say none, but she adopts tons of animals from the animal shelter. And she's really kind to strangers.
Oh, you're right. She did. Yeah. Over the parts.
She did meth?
She did alcohol, ecstasy, meth, crack, cocaine. Dude, she did crack. Crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Jeez, Lou.
In one passage of her book, she discusses breaking into tears while addressing a crowd at Wisconsin's Marquette University while coming down from a 2-day meth, cocaine, and ecstasy binge. Damn.
Holy cow. How is she alive?
That speech would have been crazy.
Phenomenal.
So good.
It was 45 seconds long.
Must see.
Hey guys, I'm here. And let me tell you about the thing.
I'm keeping it in because you were correct. So
yeah, man.
I'm sorry, Jodie. It's true. You were addicted to meth. I'm sorry. I'm glad you're not anymore. But yes, you were.
Okay, and cool. I didn't slander anybody.
Yeah. This is true.
I don't know. They definitely like, it's one of two ways. It's either the cinephile who's like, whatever I've seen is not highbrow enough, or it's the people who are really like nerdy and they're like, oh yeah, I loved the Marvels. And I'm like, great. Mm-hmm. I'm glad for you.
Yeah.
And then the other guy's like, if you've seen the Marvels, I'm going to murder you. And I'm like, I'm okay. I'm sorry.
Cool.
I didn't even do anything wrong. I haven't seen the Marvels. And they're like, if you know Kevin Feige's name, I'm going to chop off your finger. That's the antithesis of cinema. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry.
It's none of your business either way. So
I didn't do anything. I didn't make the Marvel movies.
No comment.
I literally had a guy say that anybody who sees the Marvel movies in theaters, he doesn't trust. And I'm like, you don't trust a lot of people, friend. I'm like, okay. Cool.
All right, bro. I have trust issues. I'm so cool.
Go enjoy your screening of Kramer vs. Kramer at some weird art house cinema.
Have you seen that? That's a good film now. Wait a second now. I actually like Kramer vs. Kramer.
I haven't seen that movie. I don't know. I have no idea.
It's
but
actually pretty good.
I'll just say breathless. Enjoy your screening of La Strada.
Enjoy your original copy of Tin Toy.
I've seen 8.5, 77,000 times. Okay, good for you. I have a tattoo of Truffaut on my bicep. Okay, that's cool. Good for you, I guess.
I've got Buster Keaton tattooed on my calf. And then the train he's jumping onto on my right calf. So if I put my legs together, he's like jumping on the train.
Jump in the train. Yes.
Just in time, too. For the obstacle.
Good Lord.
How do you perform that? Is that for people waiting in line behind you at like an amusement park? Like, oh, cool. Mom, look, it's Buster Keaton.
Yeah, every 6-year-old loves Buster Keaton.
My favorite Disney Plus show is Buster Keaton and His Amazing Friends. It's just all the silent film stars.
Oh, good Lord.
And the villains are the people trying to make the talkies.
Oh, man.
I'm just trying to imagine the most boring show ever.
I was just say there are no villains. It's all internal conflict.
Maybe the big villain at the end of the show who's like directing and puppeting all the other villains is Jodie Sweetin. Maybe she's the final villain. But like pre-recovery Jodie Sweetin.
Oh, Lord.
Like 15-year-old Jodie Sweetin.
Yes.
All right. Well.
Oh, Lord.
There we go.
There you go.
All right. Well,
in a review of Oppenheimer, I did not expect Jodie Sweetin's name to come up more than one time.
I didn't expect it.
I'm expecting her name to come up at least once. Like it has to happen once.
Sure.
But more than once, yeah.
She's fun. I heard her. I just to say a positive thing. I heard her on an interview recently. She's really fun. She seems cool. I like her.
Yeah, I think she stopped by the Pod Meets World podcast, and it was a great episode.
Yeah, so. She did that, and she did. God, who else's podcast did she do? It was like Mayim Bialik or something like that. It was something like that. Anyway,
I'm glad for her. She's recovered, and she had Fuller House, and that's great.
Yeah, we've covered our ass now. We have.
Yeah, now we've been sweet to sweeten.
We're back to zero.
-1.
-1. All right. Well, that'll do it then.
I don't know how we got off on that track, but okay.
There are times where I'm like, should I cut this? And I'm like, no. I won't.
No, it's fine. Just to spite you, I won't.